Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. I welcome you to the next episode of Master Connect. I am Dr. Neeraj Singh, and every week I bring to you some exceptional readings from the vast homeopathic literature. And today we are going to read something from the book of Dr. Chris Course, and that is the book name Imagine Homeopathy. He says in the introductory part of the book that this book is written for people who want to take the time to understand things at a deeper level. People who like to draw parallels, think in analogies, and have fun milking a metaphor for every bit of insight. And of course, people who are looking for ways to explain the often difficult framework of homeopathic science to other inquiring minds. It is intended for those who have just started a course of study in homeopathy, as well as for those who would enjoy a new perspective on things learned long ago. And not least, this book is for those in the homeopathic community who have taken it upon themselves to pass on the knowledge and teach. So this was about introduction. And then next he talks about the lemons, and why he talks about lemons we will see. He says that Dr. Hahnemann was not exactly what you would call a diplomatic roundabout kind of person. He did not mince words and would get to the point right away. That is also why he devoted the beginning of the organon to defining the centerpiece of homeopathy, which has since come to be known as the law of similars. Let likes be cured by likes is the English translation of what Hahnemann put in succinct Latin as similia similibus curenta. Many have taken this statement on which to hang their cases against homeopathy, since what it says appears to be completely illogical. If someone suffers from a disease, he may be cured by a medicine which has the power to produce just such a disease in a healthy subject. Should not the exact opposite be true? If you are too cold, you do not need more of the same, but rather the opposite, namely heat. If a piece is bent to the right, you give it a good whack to the left. Banging it on the right some more is not going to straighten it. All this seems true enough and is in fact the basis of common medical practice. If your heart beats too fast, you need something which has the primary effect of slowing it down. A person with a high fever requires a drug which has the power to reduce the body temperature. The underlying pattern seems to be that one should be looking for something opposite to the patient's symptom. This is the law of opposites, or contraria contraris in Latin. It is easy to see how, with the emergence of homeopathy, the stage was set for the conflict, rattling at the basic tenets of medical thinking. It is either similia similibus curenter or contraria contraris. There seems to be no middle ground between these two camps. Now, I would now like to invite you into a little meditation. He says, you will need a lemon for the full experience, but in case you are reading this book at an inconvenient time with no lemon at hand, take a look, visualize some lemon and join in the meditation. Take 5 to 10 minutes to investigate the lemon inside out. Look at it, feel it, poke it, cut it in half, taste it, smell it, study it in any way imaginable. I am sure that there will not be too many surprises, since this is only an ordinary lemon just like the ones you have squeezed the juice from or cut into slices many times before. But it is important that you refresh your memory and paint a vivid image of this lemon before your mental eye. Close your eyes and become a lemon. Once you are satisfied, come back out of your peel and try to name as many properties as you can think of, which make up the whole of the lemon. Jot them down on a piece of paper, one after the other. Do not be too analytical or too critical about this. you should have at least 10 items on your list. The more, the better. Your list may begin like this: roughly 5 to 10 centimeter in size, yellow peel, wrinkled peel, citrus like smell when scratching peel, and so on. The totality. There are so many features that make up a lemon. For example, its size, weight, and color. The texture of the peel, the smell when you scratch the peel. Then there is the color of the inside of the fruit, its taste, the shape of its pips, the amount of juice, etc. By the sum total of all of these, you can recognize a lemon and tell it apart from other things. You will probably agree with me that however long your list might be, it is by no means exhaustive. By using chemical analysis, for example, we could begin to include the amount of each and every chemical compound found in the object of our investigation. That would easily add many hundreds of items to the list. We might just as well decide to use a microscope and describe the cell structure in minute detail, which would contribute another big bunch of properties. And there is no end in sight. Within the 5 letters of a lemon, we have encountered what we call its totality. On one level, it is almost impossible to describe a lemon in minute detail, yet on another, it is almost trivial. Otherwise, we would all be completely lost on our next shopping trip. This is a common experience with all totalities. In fact, in everyday life, we often tend to think in totalities. Pretty much every object that surrounds us is a totality. From lemons to carrots, from chairs to chandeliers, from you to me, including everyone in between. Incidentally, other words for totality which you might encounter are gestalt, quality, or entity. It is fortunate that our thinking is well adapted to working with totalities. If I just say fruit, yellow, tart, juicy, I bet you will discover pretty quickly that I was thinking of a lemon. We do not need complete information to identify a totality. Our mind works well with incomplete information and by filling in the blanks, conjures up a rich, detailed, and lifelike image which we recognize immediately. In order to relate the lemon to homeopathy, let me turn to aphorism 6 of the Organon. The unprejudiced observer, even the most sharp-witted one, knowing the nullity of supersensible speculations which are not borne out in experience, perceives nothing in each single case of disease other than the alterations in the condition of the body and soul, disease signs, befallments, symptoms which are outwardly discernible through the senses. That is, the unprejudiced observer only perceives the deviations from the former healthy state of the now sick patient which are felt by the patient himself, perceived by those around him, and observed by the physician. All these perceptible signs represent the disease in its entire extent. That is, together they form the true and only conceivable gestalt of the disease. As instructed by Hahnemann, the physician needs to make a list of all observable symptoms, just as you compiled the list of all lemon symptoms, so to speak. But it is not any individual symptom that is important to us. It is the entity which gives rise to all our observations in total that we seek to recognize. This is what Hahnemann calls the gestalt or totality of the disease. As such, it is an elusive concept since we cannot nail it down on paper or teach it to a computer. If, however, we use our brain's capability to think in entire images, we can accept the notion of a totality as the complete and entire image which is hinted at by an incomplete list of individually observable properties. Suppose you wanted to teach someone what a lemon was? Would you give him your list from before, or would you rather just hand him a lemon? I bet that showing him a lemon has a much better chance of a success. In the previous experiment, you actually went through the very process of a homeopathic patient interview. Just allow me to neglect the fact that your patient was a lemon. During such an interview, we see the gestalt of the disease sitting right in front of us, and we cut it up into little bits and pieces which we write down on paper. These are called symptoms. If we are not careful, we might end up with useless bits and pieces and no chance to recognize the totality, which expressed them ever again. In order to make us see the whole, we have to be careful what we write down. Let me give you an example. Suppose you were allowed 3 statements to characterize a lemon and you choose the following. Fruit, edible, has seeds. What are the chances of someone recognizing these as symptoms of a lemon totality? If, on the other hand, you put down sour, yellow, juicy, the likelihood of guessing right is much higher, simply because these 3 properties are more characteristic of a lemon than the previous 3. It requires some experience and practice to take a good case which retains the characteristic of disease totality. To help you focus on what is important, try asking yourself this question: what makes this person unique? Especially regarding to the disease condition he speaks. What makes this person unique? Have you ever been to one of those tourist places where street artists offer to draw a quick sketch of your likeness? The artist is trained to zoom in only on those features that are characteristic of you and distinguishes you from everybody else. Anybody who knows you would recognize the totality which sat model for the drawing. And that is exactly what a good homeopathic interview should be like. The totality of the disease is expressed by the symptoms you notice and choose to include in your transcript. There has been much misunderstanding about what exactly the expression totality of symptoms mean. Some interpret it as being all symptoms, an exhaustive list of all observable changes caused by the disease. In the light of a previous discussion, it is clear that no list of symptoms can ever be equivalent to the thing itself. The emphasis is not on the quantity of symptoms but on choosing those among all possible ones that make the underlying totality become apparent. These are the ones that enter in further case analysis, such as repertorization and study of materia medica. There are the ones that strike us an odd or out of the norm. A coldness in an extremity which is relieved by cold application, for example. Nobody would find it the slightest bit odd if the same coldness was ameliorated by warmth. But it is strange, rare, and peculiar if cold should be what the patient craves in that particular case. Hahnemann points us in this very same direction in aphorism 153 of the Organon. In the search for a homeopathically specific remedy, the more striking, exceptional, unusual, and odd, that is, characteristic signs and symptoms of the disease case are to be especially and almost solely kept in view. The more common and indeterminate symptoms like lack of appetite, headache, lassitude, restless sleep, discomfort, etc. are to be seen with almost every disease and medicine, and thus deserve little attention unless they are more closely characterized. So friends, this was what Dr. Kurz writes about totality of the symptoms and peculiar symptoms to understand the case taking. And this is all for this week, this episode. See you again on next Thursday. Till then, take care. Have a nice week.